Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Been looking through some comments and stuff like that, and various projects and all this stuff, and run across some comments that kind of didn't really bother me, but as a channel that wants to learn to do things, I'm not a quitter. I do things a little fast sometimes. I tend to overtalk like sometimes, so let me just get to the point of it. Let me show you what we're about to revisit. We're back on the Silvertone. It hasn't tripped me up, it just threw me for... wasn't expecting to find what I found. I didn't expect it to be modified from how it was originally. So I've decided what I'm going to do with this radio. I'm going to order the components, all the capacitors that I need, the filter capacitors that I need, and I'm going to change the components just like they are. Put the new rectifier tube in there. I think that's one that was bad. And then we're going to power the thing up, see if it works, see if it don't. Whatever is making it not work, we're going to fix that, and we're going to keep chugging away at this dude until it works. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Like I said, I'm just going to change the components that need to be changed, which is all the paper caps. Change the electrolytic, which is down here. I usually restuff, but I got to decide if I want to do that or not on this one here. I might just come over here and maybe put some radials over here. I don't know. I'll figure that out in a little bit. But I'm fixing to start getting the parts list for all this mess right here, and then get them ordered, get a tube ordered, and when the tube and all that comes in, then we'll get this thing going. So, with any further ado, I will we'll start looking for components or getting the parts list and find out what I need and get them ordered and get them in and change them out, and then we'll see if we can get life out of this old radio and have some sort of a video out of it. So, alright, I'm going to get to you looking for parts, so talk to you later. Alright, as it stands now on this Silvertone, excuse me, I had to do a little bit of backtracking on this because I had cut a couple of components and forgot where they came from. Like I've got one here, if you can see it, that little peg right there. I don't know what that went to. I do know that this thing has been so hacked, it's not even funny. There's a 2.2 microfarad right here, get my finger out of the way. It comes from pin 3 of the 35W4 tube right here, which is basically a tie point. That connection there is an 820 ohm 1 watt resistor that runs to ground through this little lead right here. So that runs to the chassis, I'm sorry, to the return ground. The 0.2 microfarad runs over to the chassis ground, and that is evidenced right here. It's actually C10.2. Here's your electronic ground or electrical ground, and then here's your chassis ground. So that is that's the one that keeps the RF connections valid, but it keeps it electrically isolated, so at least you don't blow something up, I guess. So where do I need to start next? Let's see, get my pointer. I'm going to order a replacement for this. I may just leave that. I don't remember how that checked. I know some of this stuff's gonna be out of tolerance, but I think I'm going to change it as I need it because I have plenty of resistors. somebody said, you got all those parts bins and you ain't got them, you have to order capacitors. Well, yeah, that's true. A lot of these parts bins is old parts for other things that I may or may not work on. Anyway, I only have so much room. Anyway, let's see. Connection right here. I'll move this out of the way. Here is the half moon, which I think is going to be, that comes from pin 7. The half moon goes over here. This half moon is going to be C7A, 80 microfarad. But if you'll look at this schematic a minute, I've actually blown this schematic up. This is a sheet of paper comparison. I had to blow this thing up and tape it all together because it was so blurry, couldn't read it. Anyway, all these X's right here is where all the modifications have been done. This 82, switch 82 here, all this stuff is the AC DC stuff. That's not even in here anymore. So all of this is gone. All of this is gone. So the output of the rectifier, the 35Y4, comes in here, and it goes through an 820 ohm resistor. Let me back up. The rectified voltage comes out of pin 7 of the 35Y4, comes through C7A, which is an 80 microfarad. So that's your primary filter, the first input of the pi section filter. Goes through the 820 ohm resistor over here to this section of the circuit, which is C7B, 30 microfarad. And then from there it goes up and feeds the output stage and the detector stage right here. Alright, goes through a 600 and going back here, going through 680 ohms to this capacitor, which is the RFIF B plus, which is this in here. It feeds all this mess right here. What I have not found is this capacitor. It says it's right here. Jerk. It says it's right here in the schematic, but I've yet to find it. So I've got to find that. I have not found it yet. Actually, I think I have. Let's say pin 7, the output, that's the primary, comes here, goes through, yeah, I'm sorry, here it is, right here. Let's see. Yeah, here it is, right here. I'm sorry, I missed it. Goes over here to this junction here, then comes over here to this capacitor right here. So again, that is the triangle, which is the 100 microfarad capacitors. For some reason, this is all just screwed up, man. It kind of leads you back and forth and somewhere to somewhere else, but I still got to figure that out. I didn't realize that was there till just now. So that's the this is your primary B plus right here. This comes out of the rectifier straight to here, goes through here, goes into this point. That point is tied over to this point. That point is the other section of the filter cap. It's like they've tied on, that's what it looks like they've done. They've tied this spot right here. In other words, it looks like they've tied this spot right here to this spot. That's what I'm seeing. So there's a wire going over here, which is going over to this red, going over here to pin 5 of the output tube, I believe. Hang on a second. Capacitor, I guess you'd call that. So I've traced the schematic, the power supply diagram out a little bit more. So the output of the 35Y4 off of pin 7 right here goes into a junction of an 820 and a 1600 ohm, and it used to run, if you'll follow this, it used to run over here through this battery AC switch to C7A C7A, an 80 microfarad. However, this switch is no longer there. So as you can see, I've redrawn it here. So the output of 7, the cathode, output of the rectifier, 35Y4, goes into C7A, which is an 80 microfarad capacitor. So if we come over here and look, right there, there's C7A, right? I mean, I'm sorry, pin 7 of the output, the rectifier tube. And if we move this point 2 out of the way for a minute, you'll see this little black jumper going across here, and that black jumper right there to that part, that section of that electrolytic right there. So so that's good. That is going to be C7A right there. So the next place that it goes into R61A, a 1600 ohm resistor. That's part of that candome, and it goes from there down to C7C, 100 microfarad. Of course, that says 100 microfarad. These old values, sometimes they get me. But anyway, it's a little voltage divider right here. And this is for the filament voltage string, which they're not using the low voltage filaments anymore. So this circuit is basically a deadhead. But anyway, let's go through that. So here comes the straight B plus out of the rectifier right there. Comes through this red wire that you see, comes over here, goes right there to this tab of this candome resistor, and from there it comes over here, boom, and then from there it goes into this 820 ohm resistor to this point right there, which is the electrical ground. So if we look right here, here is the output pin 7 of the rectifier tube. Goes through this 1600, which is the candome resistor, comes back over here, goes over the 820 to ground, and then this capacitor right here is again C7C, 100 microfarad capacitor. So that section's right. Okay, I'm cool with that. Alright, so once it gets over here to this section, it then branches off. Make sure you're in frame. Branches off over to this section of the capacitor, and that goes into a 680 ohm resistor, half watt. Anyway, that is the square, and that is this right here. So if we come back over here to this 820, come over here, remember all this switch is gone, so this resistor here directly connects to C7B, which is 30 microfarad. So going back, here's a B plus coming out of the rectifier, going right here. Alright, and then that goes through this 820 ohm resistor, comes over here to this test point here, which is the power supply for the output tube and detector, comes over here, is filtered by this capacitor here, goes into the 680. And let's see, where's that? Yeah, 680 right there. But I'm missing a capacitor. I'm missing this capacitor right here, C8, 12 microfarad capacitor. That's missing. I really need that capacitor to be in there. Even though they didn't put it in there, it needs to be in there. So I hadn't figured out where it's supposed to be, so it does go over here. So it should be on this test point somewhere, and I don't see it. You got an IF can that's getting powered off of here. This one IF can, second IF can. This one here goes over here, underneath all that mess there. If you can see it, I don't know if you can or not. It's just right there. Through another 680 and branches off to different other places. So there is a capacitor right here. If you'll notice, it looks a little weird. It's another 0.01. I think somebody added a bypass in there. So this capacitor is missing. I'm thinking it needs that one in there. So if you follow it on up here, comes over here and it feeds the IF string right here. That's that can I told you about a minute ago. Comes over here, feeds this one right here, that can there. Then here's that 680 ohm resistor, comes over here and feeds the screen grid of the tube 2. Alright, goes down to 33K. Does some razzmatazz, I'm not sure what that is. Don't care right now. Basically, this is just the power supply for the RF and IF string, basically. So, this is unusual. I don't know what that is yet. I don't know where the other end is. This is all buried. I don't know. Can't see. No telling where y'all are in the frame. It looks like it goes right over here, if you can see it, to that tab there. So this don't look factory. I don't know what this mess is, but I'm sure it's some kind of modification that they had to do to make this modification work. So I'll have to figure that out, get that cleaned up a little bit. So I guess long story short, power supply, everything's in place where it needs to be except for right here. That bugs me. So I'm going to order me probably a 10 microfarad to probably do the job there, just to give it something. So that's where I'm at now. This is my parts list so far. I'm going to need several capacitors. I'm going to need 7B7, I'm going to need a 35W4, then I'm going to need an 80 and a 30 at 150 volts. So I'm going to get a radial. I'm going to go ahead and get a 100 microfarad at 50 volts, and then I'll probably just get a 10 microfarad at, just for fun, I'll get a 10 microfarad at about 100 volts to go right there in place of 8. I'll go ahead and remeasure this resistor. I'll go ahead and get another resistor. I'll go ahead and measure this resistor here and make sure. I know it was bad. I just gotta see what they were doing. It's 470 and a 150. So that's coming off of the output tube, I think, pin, let's see, pin 7 to ground. So it looks like a type 1, I guess. Yeah, right here. There's the cathode right there. Of course, I noticed they didn't have a cathode bypass cap on it. But see that 150 and a 470 right there? That's been added. So they had to do that modification to make it work. Because remember, it's not this low voltage string anymore, which just would have normally been the cathode. Here's that 1500 ohm right here. That would have been probably the cathode resistor for this one LB4. So since that's not in line anymore and 58 is probably missing, that's what they did here. So I'm going to look up this tube right here and see what the actual cathode is supposed to be for this. See if I can get a resistor that's more closely rated for that. And then get all these parts in and we'll put them in here and power it up, see what the devil happens, and we'll make it work from there. So that's my story on this so far. So don't know if I'm going to make this a short or just add this to the other video. I don't know. So I guess I'll see y'all on the next event. All right, talk to you later. Bye. One other thing is I wanted to check this filter cap again before I went any further, just to verify. But I checked this capacitor here, C7A. It's supposed to be an 80 microfarad at 150 volts. So I've got my LC103 set up for 80 microfarad, 150 volts. So went ahead and tested the value. It's running about 30 microfarad. Watch this. This is the leakage. Greater than 20 milliamps. Less than 7.5 K. So, not a very good capacitor, but just for grins and giggles, find what I'm looking for. Where is my leads? We are going to fire up the old Heath kit. First thing we're going to do, I guess, is let's check the value. Let's get in here and connect to our ground. Alright, first thing we're going to do is look for a value. I'm checking 20 to 1000 microfarads. Keep getting that thing low in frame. 20 to 1000 microfarads, but I've got the power factor set about 0. Got it set on capacitor, so let's watch the magic eye. The magic eye didn't seem to function at all. Let's switch this down to 50. Alright. Let's go over to leakage. Sorry about that. I can't never seem to get y'all in frame. It is super leaky. 150. It is definitely a bad filter capacitor. So now I don't feel too bad about ordering it. I was going to do it anyway, y'all knew that. So there you go. I'm not going to restuff this, and I decided I'm not going to restuff this capacitor. I'm just going to get some radial leads and I'm going to tack them in at a good place and clean up some of that wiring in this poor old thing. So that's where I'm at now. We are going to not try to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to go in and change what needs to be changed without changing anything else. I'm going to order a couple of tubes for it, order the capacitors, and those set of resistors that's on the output tube here, those two resistors, they're actually measured pretty close, so I'm not going to change them either. I'm not changing any resistors in here, just capacitors and the tubes, and see what happens. So there you go. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.